The sky above planet Horia turned dark without warning. People looked up and stopped what they were doing. The sun was gone. A shadow covered the land. Then came the sound. A low hum at first, then louder. It shook the buildings. Birds flew in. Fear. Children cried. No one knew what was happening. Old men remembered stories. Stories from long ago. Of ships that came without a warning. Ships that brought fire and death. But those were just tales, right? Then they saw it. A ship the size of a mountain floated above the capital city, black, sharp, and silent. Then another ship came, and another. Soon, the sky was full of them, big ships, small fighters, all silent, all waiting. Commander Lyran of the Horian Defense Force looked out from the control tower. His hands were shaking. "Send a signal to Earth," he said. "Tell them we're under attack." The ships opened fire. Beams of energy shot down like red lightning. Buildings exploded. The ground shook. People ran. Some screamed. Others just froze. In seconds, the capital turned to smoke and ash. No warning, no demands, just death. They were called the Drakari. No one on Horia had seen them before. But Earth knew the name. It was whispered in old records, forgotten by most. The Drakari were an ancient alien race, cruel, cold, unstoppable. They had left long ago. Now they were back, and this time they weren't here to talk. Jalen was 14. He hid under a broken bridge with his sister. Their home was gone. His mother had pushed them into the shelter before the roof collapsed. He didn't know where she was now. His father had gone outside to help others and never came back. He held his sister close. "Don't look," he said, but she looked anyway. Her eyes were wide. Silent tears ran down her face. Fighters flew low, hunting survivors. Any movement, any sound. A red beam came down. Nothing was left. The Drakari wanted no witnesses. The Horian army tried to fight. They sent out old warplanes. They launched missiles, but nothing worked. The alien ships had shields. The missiles exploded before reaching them. The planes were shot down in seconds. In orbit, the Drakari watched calmly. They didn't see it as war. They saw it as cleaning. One of their commanders, a tall being with silver skin, spoke to his crew. "Another world falls," he said. No resistance. But he was wrong. Back on Earth, deep inside a hidden base under Mars, alarms rang. General, Sarah Connors walked into the command room. Her face was pale. "They've hit Horia," she said. "It's not pirates. It's them." Everyone in the room went silent. A tech officer looked at her. "You mean the Drakari?" Sarah nodded. "They're back, and they're not playing around." In a deep chamber, something old began to wake up. Lights flickered, engines hummed. A ship, long covered in dust and silence, started to power on. This was Ironheart, the secret weapon of Earth. A warship built in the last alien war, 70 years ago, hidden because humans feared it was too powerful. Now they needed it. But back on Horia, things were only getting worse. In the mountains, a small group of survivors tried to escape. Jalen and his sister were with them. A pilot named Rika had found them. Her ship was damaged, but it could fly. "We have to go," she said. "We can't fight them." Jalen looked up at the sky. Another city was burning in the distance. "Someone has to," he said. "They can't do this to us." "They can," Rika replied. "And they will. Unless someone stops them." They flew low under the clouds, hoping not to be seen. But Drakari drones spotted them. A chase began. The ship shook as blasts flew past. Rika swore and pulled the controls hard. "Hold on!" Jalen held his sister tight. The ship dove into a canyon. The drones followed. They moved like machines. No fear, no mercy. Rika flew fast. One wrong turn, and they would all be gone. She used an old trick. She flew into a narrow cave. The drones tried to follow but crashed into the walls. One made it through. Rika pulled her blaster and shot it down. Silence again. The ship landed in a hidden valley. Smoke rose from its engine. It wouldn't fly again. But they were alive. For yay. Now from the top of a hill, Jalen looked out. Fires burned across the planet. Cities were gone. The once bright world was now dark and broken. Why us? He asked. Rika stood next to him. Because we're human, she said. And they fear what we might become. Jalen didn't understand, but he knew one thing. He didn't want to run anymore. Far above, in space, the Drakari sent a final message to their fleet. Planet Horia cleansed. Begin next phase. But on Mars, Ironheart's engines roared to life. Captain Mira Ross stepped onto the bridge of the old warship. Her eyes were cold, her voice steady. We only have one shot, she said, but that's all we'll need. The war had just begun. The red light blinked softly in the dark control room. Captain Mira Ross stood still, her eyes fixed on the screen before her. The silence was heavy. The only sound came from the soft hum of machines deep inside the Iron Heart. It was a giant ship, hidden away for decades, waiting for this moment. The crew around her moved quietly, each person focused on their task. They had trained for years, but now, the moment was real. The Drakari were closer than ever. The fall of Horia was just the beginning. The whole galaxy was watching, but no one dared to act. Until now. Mira took a deep breath. Bring the engines online, she said calmly. Her voice did not shake. She could feel the weight of the mission on her shoulders. This was more than a ship. It was hope. Far away from Earth, in space near a small colony called Vela, the Drakari fleet moved steadily. Their huge black ships blocked the stars like giant shadows. They were quiet but powerful. No one in the colony expected a warship like Ironheart to come, but it was coming. Inside the Ironheart, the crew worked as one. The ship's artificial intelligence, named Ares, spoke in a smooth voice. Captain, systems are coming online. We have power at 80%. Weapons are ready to deploy. Mira nodded. Good. We need to be ready for anything. The Drakari will not back down. A young officer named Cato was at the weapons console. His hands moved fast but steady. Captain, I am detecting several Drakari fighters approaching Vela. They plan to strike the colony. Mira's face tightened. Prepare to launch fighters. We will not let them destroy innocent people. The ship shook slightly as the engines roared to life. It was a sound never heard in decades, a sound that told everyone on board the fight had started. Mira walked to the window and looked out into space. The stars looked cold and distant. The silence between them felt heavy, as if the whole universe was holding its breath. Then, the first enemy fighters appeared. Small, fast ships with glowing red lights. They moved quickly toward Vela, but before they could reach the colony, Ironheart's fighters launched from hidden bays, the sky filled with small ships, ready to protect the innocent. The battle was fierce but silent. Explosions lit up the darkness like fireworks, but no sound traveled through the vacuum of space. Mira watched as her pilots skillfully maneuvered, protecting Vela's ships and buildings. One of the Drakari fighters broke through and headed straight for the colony's power station. If it was destroyed, the colony would be left helpless. Mira didn't hesitate. Cato, target that fighter. Fire now. A beam of light shot out from Ironheart's weapons and hit the enemy ship. It spiraled out of control and drifted away. Relief spread through the crew. The colony was safe, for now. Back on the bridge, Mira knew this was only the start. The Drakari would come back stronger. They were patient, like hunters waiting for the right moment. She turned to her crew. We must find their command ship. If we cut off their leaders, maybe we can stop this war. Ares' voice was calm. Scanning for large ships nearby. One ship matches the command profile. It is moving toward the nebula cluster. Mira nodded. Set course. Let's find them. The journey was long. Days passed. The crew worked without rest, knowing the fate of many depended on them. During this time, Mira learned more about her crew. Kato was young but brave. He had lost his home in the first attack. There was Rika, the pilot who had rescued Jalen and his sister on Horia. She had joined the Ironheart crew, ready to fight back. Jalen himself had arrived on the ship. He sat quietly in a corner, staring at the stars outside. He was no longer a scared boy. The fire of hope burned inside him. He wanted to help. One night, as the ship drifted near the nebula cluster, alarms suddenly sounded. "Captain, multiple ships detected. The command ship is here," Kato shouted. Outside, a huge black ship appeared. It was bigger than any they had seen before. Its surface shimmered in the starlight. Mira's heart pounded. This was the moment. The time to show humanity's strength. She gave the order. "Prepare for battle." The crew moved fast. Fighters launched, shields powered up. The Iron Heart shone like a beacon in the dark. The two ships faced each other, the silence before a storm. Mira looked around her crew. She saw hope, fear, and determination. They were ready to stand together. The first move was made. The battle would change everything. The cold silence of space stretched endlessly around the Iron Heart. Captain Mira Ross stood on the bridge, her eyes locked on the vast darkness ahead. The stars sparkled like distant fires, but among them lurked danger. The Drakari command ship, black and massive, moved slowly through the shadows like a silent giant waking from a long sleep. Every breath in the ship seemed to hold the weight of what was to come. The crew was tense but ready. Months of waiting, training, and planning had led to this moment. Yet even with all their preparation, the unknown could still surprise them. Mira thought of the people on distant colonies, the families hoping for peace, and the memories of Horia burning in her mind. She would not let fear stop her. Suddenly, a sharp alert rang through the ship. Kato rushed to the weapons console, his fingers flying over the controls. "Captain, enemy fighters are launching from the command ship. They're heading toward us in full force." Mira's jaw tightened. "Deploy all fighters and prepare shields. We protect Ironheart at all costs." The smaller ships swarmed into space, fast and agile, weaving between beams of energy. The battle was a delicate dance of precision and courage. The fighters met the enemy head-on, pushing them back from the Ironheart's side. In the chaos, a sudden warning flashed on the bridge. "Captain, an enemy ship is approaching the main hull. It looks like they plan to attach themselves." Mira's heart raced. Boarding was the most dangerous threat. If the Drakari managed to get inside, the crew's lives and the ship's future would be at risk. "Seal all bulkheads and activate internal defenses," Mira ordered. "Send teams to the hangars. We'll stop them before they get through." The Aibo corridors of the Ironheart buzzed with activity. Soldiers moved quickly but carefully, checking every door and passage. Jalen, now trained in ship defense, ran alongside the others. He felt the weight of the moment but kept his focus. At the edge of the ship, the Drakari boarding craft clung tightly. Their dark figures prepared to enter, but they had not counted on the humans' resolve. The first clashes were tense. No loud noise, just the sounds of footsteps, the soft hum of energy shields, and whispered commands. Jalen and his team pushed forward, using light tools to block passages and disable the invaders. Back on the bridge, Mira kept her eyes on the monitors. The fighters were holding their ground outside, but the danger inside was growing. Suddenly, a burst of static filled the room. A message appeared on the screen. It was from the Drakari commander. "You cannot win," the message said. "Surrender, and your people will be spared." Mira's voice was steady. "We fight for our home. We will never surrender." The battle inside reached a peak. Jalen found himself face to face with a Drakari warrior. Their eyes met, but instead of fear, Jalen felt strength. He fought with all he had, blocking the enemy's moves and pushing forward. Outside, the fighters began to push the enemy back. One by one, the Drakari ships retreated from the Ironheart's defense. On the bridge, Mira breathed a small sigh of relief, but knew the war was far from over. Suddenly, the ship's sensors detected a new signal. A hidden fleet was moving closer. It was larger than anyone expected. Mira looked around her crew. Prepare for the next wave. This fight has only just begun. The stars around them seemed to grow darker, but inside the Iron Heart, hope burned brighter than ever. The vastness of space seemed endless as the Iron Heart drifted closer to the heart of the nebula cluster. Captain Mira Ross stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the endless sea of stars and swirling clouds of cosmic dust. The soft glow of distant suns barely lit the darkness, but here, in the quiet between galaxies, something was waiting. Something old, something powerful. The crew was tense but steady. Days of travel had brought them here, and the weight of their mission pressed on every soul aboard. Outside the thick windows, the nebula's colors shifted slowly, purples, blues, and reds blending like a living painting. But the beauty could not hide the danger lurking in the shadows. Mira's hand rested lightly on the railing as she thought about what was ahead. The Drakari command ship had vanished inside the cluster, and the signal they had been tracking was growing stronger. It was a beacon, a call to arms, or a trap. Suddenly, the quiet was broken by the low hum of the ship's alert system. The time bridge lights dimmed and a soft voice echoed through the room. Captain, sensor readings indicate a massive energy source ahead. It matches no known natural phenomena. Mira's eyes narrowed. Could it be a weapon? Ares, the ship's artificial intelligence, responded calmly. Possibility cannot be ruled out. Scanning for additional information. The crew gathered around the main console, watching as the sensors painted a picture on the screen. A swirling, massive energy pulsed at the center of the nebula, glowing brighter with every second. It was unlike anything they had seen before, a storm of power that seemed alive. We need to get closer, Mira said. But carefully. We don't know what this is yet. The Iron Heart moved forward, engines humming softly, shields raised. As they approached, the energy storm grew stronger. It was as if the nebula itself was breathing, alive with power and mystery. In the quiet moments, Mira thought of Jalen and the people they were fighting for. The innocent lives on distant worlds, the families who had lost everything to the Drakari's cold advance. She promised herself she would not let this power fall into the wrong hands. Suddenly, the ship's communication system crackled. A voice spoke in an unfamiliar language, calm, ancient, but filled with warning. The words were unknown, but the meaning was clear. Do not come closer. Mira glanced at her officers. We're not turning back now. Prepare for anything. The ship moved deeper into the nebula. The energy pulsed stronger and the lights flickered. Crew members felt a strange sensation, a hum in their bones, a pull in their minds. Ares alerted the bridge. Captain, environmental readings indicate increased radiation and unusual magnetic fields. Life support systems are compensating. Mira took a steady breath. Keep shields up and maintain course. As the Iron Heart pushed forward, the swirling storm suddenly split open, revealing a hidden world. A massive ship, ancient and unlike the Drakari vessels they had seen. It was covered in strange symbols that glowed softly, and its size was beyond anything in the fleet. This must be the source, Mira said, awe mixed with caution. The Drakari must be using it as their base. Jalen stood beside her, eyes wide with wonder and fear. What is it? Mira shook her head. I don't know yet, but if we can take control of that ship, we can change everything. Before they could act, the massive ship emitted a pulse of energy. The Iron Heart shook, systems flickered, and for a moment time seemed to slow. The crew held steady, trusting their training and the strength of their ship. The energy passed, leaving the Iron Heart intact but warning clear. We've been seen, Mira said. They know we're here. The crew prepared for the next move. The silence of the nebula was broken by the hum of awakening engines. The ancient ship began to move. Mira's voice was steady, filled with determination. This is the moment we've been waiting for. We take the fight to them. The stars outside shone brighter than ever, but inside the Iron Heart, a new hope burned, stronger, The war for survival was far from over, but now the battle was close. Very close. The Ironheart's engines thrummed steadily as the massive ancient ship stirred to life before them. Its glowing symbols pulsed brighter, lighting up the swirling nebula clouds around it. Captain Mira Ross stood on the bridge, steady and focused, her eyes never leaving the moving silhouette. The moment was heavy, a turning point in the long fight against the Drakari. The crew moved with practiced precision. Months of preparation had led to this instant, and every person aboard felt the gravity of the moment. Yet beneath the tension was a flicker of hope. If they could unlock the secrets of this ancient vessel, they might have a chance to turn the tide. The Ironheart slowly matched the larger ship's course. Sensors searched for weaknesses, openings, anything to help in the coming encounter. But the ancient vessel was unlike any known technology. Its systems hummed with energy beyond anything the crew had studied. Jalen stood close to Mira, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. He had grown from a scared boy into a determined young man. "Captain," he said quietly, "what do you think this ship really is?" Mira looked out the window, watching the giant ship move through the nebula. "I think it's a lost treasure of a long-forgotten civilization, and the Drakari have found a way to use it against us." The crew prepared to send an exploration team aboard. Mira knew the risks. The unknown ship could be dangerous in ways they could not predict. But knowledge was power, and they needed answers. As the exploration team's shuttle detached from the Ironheart, the atmosphere inside grew thick with anticipation. The small craft moved slowly toward the giant vessel, its surface shimmering with strange light. The air inside the shuttle was tense, every crew member alert. The shuttle docked with the ancient ship. The airlock hissed open, and the explorers stepped inside. The interior was unlike any modern design. Walls of glowing crystal, corridors twisting in impossible angles, and symbols that seemed to shimmer with life. The team moved carefully, their footsteps echoing in the quiet halls. They reached a central chamber, where a massive control panel waited. It pulsed with energy, and when the team approached, the symbols began to glow brighter. Suddenly the room filled with light. A voice spoke, not in words, but in thoughts, clear and calm, reaching into the minds of those present. It was a greeting and a warning. "You who come seeking power must be worthy," the voice said. "The fate of many rests on your choice." Mira's exploration team reported back immediately. On the Ironheart, Mira listened closely. The ancient ship was alive in some way, intelligent, aware. It challenged them. The voice offered a choice: unlock the ship's power to defend against the Drakari, but only if the humans proved themselves strong and wise. It was a test of courage and heart. Mira's mind raced. This was more than a battle of ships and weapons. It was a challenge of spirit. Back on the ancient ship, the exploration team faced puzzles and trials, each one testing their resolve, intelligence, and unity. The ship itself seemed to judge their worthiness, responding to their actions. Time stretched. The crew on the Ironheart waited, hope and worry mixing. Every second counted. Finally, the voice spoke again. "You have shown courage and wisdom. The ship's power is yours to command." A wave of energy filled the ancient vessel. The glowing symbols shone like stars come to life. The ship's weapons and defenses activated, but with a purpose: to protect, not to destroy. Mira smiled with relief. This was the key to winning without needless harm. As the Ironheart and the ancient ship joined forces, the Drakari fleet appeared again, larger and more determined. But now humanity had an unexpected strength. The battle that followed was fierce but different. Instead of destruction, it was a dance of strategy, skill, and hope. The ancient ship's power shielded colonies and stopped attacks before they began. From the bridge of the Ironheart, Mira watched the stars. She thought of all they had lost and all they still had to protect. The fight was far from over, but now humanity had a chance. A chance to defend, to survive, and to grow stronger. And that chance was worth everything. The stars beyond the thick glass of the Ironheart flickered like distant hopes in the dark sea of space. Captain Mira Ross stood silently on the bridge, feeling the quiet hum of the ship beneath her feet. The ancient vessel they had unlocked now moved beside them, a silent guardian, a beacon of strength in the vast void. But the fight was not yet over. The Drakari fleet, once thought unstoppable, had been pushed back, but their will remained unbroken. They were clever and patient, always searching for new ways to challenge humanity's resolve. Mira knew this battle would be the final test, a chance to prove that humans could stand tall among the stars. The crew worked tirelessly. Each member knew what was at stake, and their faces showed a mix of fatigue and determination. Jalen, now a skilled officer, stood beside Mira, his gaze steady as he scanned the stars. He had seen so much change since the war began, and though the path had been hard, hope still burned strong. Ares, the ship's artificial intelligence, spoke softly. "Captain, sensors indicate multiple Drakari ships approaching from several directions. Their formation suggests a coordinated effort to break through." Mira's eyes narrowed. "Prepare defenses. Deploy all available fighters and strengthen shields." Outside, the void suddenly came alive with movement. Swarms of sleek Drakari ships advanced like waves, pushing toward the Ironheart and its ancient ally. But this time the humans were ready. The combined power of two ships created a protective shield that shimmered like a pearl against the dark. The battle began with a dazzling display of light and energy. Fighters from the Ironheart darted through space, their pilots weaving skillfully to protect the larger ships. The ancient vessel released waves of energy that slowed and diverted the enemy fleet without harm, a shield of calm in the storm. Mira watched closely, her mind focused on strategy. The Drakari aimed to divide their forces, hoping to overwhelm the defenders one by one. But humanity's unity was their greatest strength. "Focus on the lead ships," she ordered. "Cut their command lines." The fighters sped toward the Drakari commanders, carefully avoiding damage but disabling communications. Without orders, the enemy ships faltered, their attacks losing precision. Jalen grinned, feeling the tide turn. "We're pushing them back." But the Drakari were not giving up. From the shadows came a new signal, a fleet larger and faster than any before. It was a challenge beyond anything humanity had faced. Mira's heart pounded, but she stood firm. "We face this together," she said to her crew. "No matter what comes, we protect our homes, our people, and our future." The battle grew, intense, but the Ironheart and the ancient ship moved as one. Their combined power created barriers that deflected attacks and repaired damage. Pilots fought with skill and courage, knowing that every move counted. Amid the chaos, Mira received a message from the ancient ship's voice, calm and clear, filled with hope. "Together we have found strength beyond war. The path ahead is lighted by courage." Those words lifted the spirits of everyone on board. They were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for a new beginning. The Drakari fleet, seeing their plans unravel, began to retreat. Slowly, the stars grew quiet again. The silence was no longer heavy but full of promise. Mira looked at her crew, proud and thankful. "We've won this battle, but our journey is just beginning. Together we will build a future where all can live in peace." Jalen smiled, feeling the warmth of hope spread through him. "We did it, Captain." The stars outside twinkled brighter, a new dawn shining in the endless night, and humanity's story, once full of fear and struggle, was now filled with strength, courage, and the promise of tomorrow.